benefits from it in both the short and the long term? I'll begin when you do.
I think in both the short and long term, was that too loud? We need to be frugal with our money. We need to partner with the people that are coming in, and we need to help produce and get things done. We don't want to block or gouge these people that are coming in. We want to make them feel welcome. They're bringing money into our community, and that's what we need. The more money they make, the more taxes they pay, and that's a benefit to our county. Short term, the people in Karnes County, we benefit through sales tax. Our restaurants, our convenience stores, our motels are full, and we're making money off that. And it also brings additional legal business into the county. Commitments for long term are working with companies to ensure this, to ensure that they get to come in here and make the money. Safety risks are always an issue, but right now we need them here and helping us. And long term, we need not be kids in a candy store. We're going to hope this money comes in. We must run things like a business. We can't just say, oh, we're going to get this big windfall of money, because with oil, we all know it's dependent on when it comes in. Oh, that's right, you're right.
All right, yeah, this will be you beginning on this next one. All right. One of the most visible roles of a county judge is setting the county budget. What will your priorities be when doing so, and how do you plan to bring transparency to the process?
Priorities should be practical. Priorities should be practical necessities. In my opinions, these include roads, law enforcement, jails, and maintenance of our building and equipment. In addition, we need short-term and long-term plans. Each department head can get together, make plans, and let us know what they're going to need or what they would like to request within income, within the budget of what we have. For transparency, we can encourage citizens to attend the budget workshops. We can have evening workshops to allow this. Many of you work, you cannot get off during the day, you can't sit in Commissioner's Court during the day, and you can't hear this. So we need to learn to interact with each other. This is your money, this is your county. We need to speak to each other, and we need to answer questions asked. We need not turn our heads when people are speaking to us and refuse to give you an answer. It's yours, and you have a right to know with everything being done with your money. So we're going to interact and answer questions for you.
Thank you, Barbara. Gail, I'll go ahead and repeat the question again for you. One of the most visible roles of a county judge is setting the county budget. What will your priorities be when doing so, and how do you plan to bring transparency to the process?
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I think the same three objectives obtained here. One is roads, two is county attorney's office, and three is a balanced budget. How to do that? We need a plan for the roads. At the debate earlier this year, it was announced that we had a plan, and that never heard of it again. Never came up again in the commissioners' meeting. Commissioners meeting 2 days ago, we learned that we had 2 trucks that were still operating. I spoke with the road and bridge administrator. He says, no, now we're down to 1 truck. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not a question of which priority. It's how soon can we get adequate funding and a plan in the hands of the road administrator. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gail. All right, leading into the third question. The state of county roads has been widely discussed. Do you perceive a problem? If so, what will be your plan of action to address it?
Thank you. Yes, of course there's a problem. It's a problem that every person in this room who has a rural address has encountered. If you've ever been in Mr. Beatrix's office, you'll notice that there's a map on the wall. There's a yellow line on one set of roads and a blue line on another. That's his attempt to bring a plan to action. But he can't do it all by himself. And just giving him money doesn't do it either. We need to have a specific plan. We need to have this list of roads that are under our attention, which I brought up some time ago that I felt would be a worthwhile monthly publication in the paper. The top 10, sort of like a wanted list. And let's get those roads. Excuse me. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is if you live down one of those roads. And there are other things that can help. There are county assistance programs and so on all of which are identified in the local government code. You haven't heard much about that, but this is the book the tenant talks about in all his advertisements. We're going to do it by the book. Oh, that's the government code, ladies and gentlemen, and there are provisions for special focus on special problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Barbara, I'll repeat the question for you. The state of county roads has been widely discussed. Do you perceive a problem? If so, what will be your plan of action to address it?
And I don't think there's a question about the county roads. I think we all know that they're in deplorable conditions. Many of them are. We have a little help from the oil field companies right now trying to help us fix that up. And I think that we really need to put that unit system in place and use it and not impede it. Let's get a system working. Let's get it going. We've already had two road and bridge administrators under it. We need some consistency to move along. We need to run it like a business, and we need to be realistic. These roads did not get deplorable overnight. It happened in time. There was actually a ad in one of the papers that talked about something 100 years ago. We had some of the best roads in the state of Texas. Obviously, that's not the case today. But as with any chronic problem, it requires a long-term solution. We're not going to fix these roads overnight. I'm not going to say, hey, if I win, you're going to have great roads. That's just not true. It's going to take time, and we're all going to have to pull together and work together.
Thank you, Barbara. All right. The Karnes County Courthouse Annex was funded by using certificate of obligation bonds. What is your understanding of the difference between voter-approved bond issues and certificate of obligation projects, and what are your feelings towards each avenue of project funding?
This is kind of hard to cover in a minute because I can't get all this out of exactly. Well, I'm gonna.
Well,
I
if you
think
want
the
to stop
debate
for one
will.
moment, can we both agree to 2 minutes on this one?
You take the first half, and I'll take the second half. We're saying the same thing.
I'm happy to go 2 minutes if you all are both happy with that as well. Gail?
Whatever we do.
All right, let's do 2 minutes then.
To my understanding, this whole thing with the certificate of obligations, if you want a certificate of obligation, you're going to have to post that 2 weeks consecutively in a newspaper somewhere of general circulation. Keyword there being general circulation. So technically, it's going to be in the back of that little paper somewhere, and if you don't sit down and comb every paper of general circulation in Karnes County, you're not even going to know that we're trying to get these certificates of obligation. If somebody does comb the papers, and they do find that within a certain period of time, and you get 5% of the voters to sign a petition, you can see if you can bring that to vote. However, that did not happen. I don't think anybody even knew these were out there. On the voter-approved bond issue, what that is that the voters know that there's going to be a set tax rate out there to cover this new expenditure. And the voters are given the facts, and they're allowed to vote on that issue. I guess my feeling in regard to both, if you look at these, the voter-approved bonds just seem like a more honest approach when we're approaching the citizens. You're going to foot the bill. Why don't you get to vote on it? I mean, you're going to put the bill on this annex. You should have had your say. And so, if we would have put it to that vote, I don't think the annex would be there. So, I think what the issue is here is you should have your choice. You should have your vote. You should be able to make your decision and have your say. With that being said, we're already stuck with it, and so we're going to have to make do with what we have right now.
Thank you, Barbara.
Sorry there. I didn't mean to change the rules.
You don't need to read that.
Okay, well, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, those of you with long memories, remember this prison over here? That was funded with certificates of obligation. That was one of the first times that the management of Karnes County learned to run an end run around the citizens. Subsequent to that, they tried it again and again. Subsequent to that, there have been moments when the newspaper didn't bring it to everybody's attention, and if you weren't there as a certified public accountant, pen in hand, you probably would have missed it too. If you don't feel like you've been hoodwinked, let me tell you it's because you're not paying attention. The certificate of obligation is a technique for management run wild. I think we should, we can't abolish it, but in the future, I strongly recommend that we only consider debt which has been the consequence of a voter bond. That's where the people speak beforehand. And in fact, in this case, even those architectural plans should have been put before the people in a referendum, in my opinion. The shape we're in today is a consequence of borrowing without the safeguards that our legislature, in all its wisdom, wrote in to the Texas Government Code. They bypassed it, and now we're paying that price. We will emerge from this, but we're going to have focused management. We're going to have to focus on the county attorney getting rid of those 2,000 plus cases. He can't just show up and say, I dismiss against these defendants because I don't want to be bothered. We've got to get those people who are elected performing their function. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. All right, this is the last question of our pre-selected questions segment. Unfunded mandates is a buzz term you hear often. What do you feel like the outlook for the future of state funding is for counties like Karnes? And under your leadership, how would the county intend to meet its obligations in the face of shrinking state aid? And we'll be back in our 1 minute for this.
Thank you. The unfunded mandates that we hear often about on the national press, whereas the Congress advises the state of Texas that they have to give every car a certain GPS on the roof, but they don't pay for it, and it leaves a huge burden for the states. That's not really very much of a problem, in my opinion, from what I've seen in Karnes County. We do have some unfunded mandates in the terms of indigent defendants, including juveniles, and that's cost us as much as $6,000 and sometimes $8,000 a month to hire lawyers to represent these indigents in our courtroom. We don't have any choice about the matter, but in terms of other unfunded mandates, I think that the approach is to associate ourselves with counties similar size.